Meow, 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 meow. Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. In anticipation of people asking me a bunch of questions about altcoins coming up soon, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Altcoins have been, for the most part, majority of them have entered a little bit of a bull market, but you just haven't heard a lot about all of them because they've just overall been underperforming Bitcoin, including Ethereum. This is the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart. So if Ethereum does really well, this chart's going to shoot up. If Bitcoin goes really well, this chart's going to go down, right? In general, and especially when you're comparing data from the last cycle, in general, before halving, altcoin season generally hasn't really started by then. It's usually after Bitcoin halving when Bitcoin does really well, when the price of Bitcoin goes up, and when liquidity eventually flows into other things, including Ethereum and other altcoins. That's when Bitcoin dominance usually drops, and that's when Ethereum over Bitcoin prices usually goes up from there. The last cycle, you did have a little bit of front running of this phenomenon. For this, these are 2 week charts, by the way. So this is an Ethereum over Bitcoin chart. Each can represent 2 weeks. So you did have a few months, about 3 or 4 months before that, you did have a little bit of a front run. You'd have the double bottom over here to kind of front run that. You don't really have it over in this cycle, unfortunately. Really, since around November 2021, it's just been a little bit of like a parabolic downtrend for Ethereum. It's just been underperforming Bitcoin for quite some time. You really talk about a year and a half now. I mean, obviously, this trend is not going to be sustainable. Last time, a very similar phenomenon happened, right around June 2017, all the way down to like September 2019. You're talking about like 2 years of time where Ethereum just bleed against Bitcoin. And this is after Bitcoin already had formed a cycle low, right, around November 2018. And even then, Ethereum continues to bleed down against Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's going up, but Ethereum continued to be less valuable compared to Bitcoin until around the area right when you have Bitcoin halving. In this case, maybe a couple of months before that. So far, we don't really have quite the phenomenon yet. I mean, we did have a little bit of a pump. We did have a lot of excitement about altcoins just a few months ago when you see these kind of pumps over here. But, we really haven't had this phenomenon where altcoin season had really, maybe front run a little bit a couple of months beforehand, right? It's just been kind of bleeding against Bitcoin, unfortunately, if you're an altcoin holder. So when is this trend going to end? I mean, this trend's not going to sustain forever. The way to kind of look for a trend ending would be to see whether or not any potential support over here to suggest that this might be getting close to a trend ending, right? One of the things that I was looking at is if you look at the volume weighted average price from the last Bitcoin halving to the current Bitcoin halving, you can see that this actually can, is either these lines right here, they either serve support or resistance. And right now it's been starting as pretty decent support really over the last few months. And another thing I was looking at is too, when you're comparing the price to RSI, you have a decline of price of Ethereum over Bitcoin, but you actually have some slightly increase in the bottom of the RSI. This is a very, very nice bullish divergence. So usually when you see something start to bottom, or at least forming a bottoming process, instead of necessarily having like form these clear bottoming process like a double bottom over here, you can end up having these kind of bullish divergences that tells you that the downtrend is really slowing and it's not really sustainable. And eventually there's going to be at some point in time, and it can keep dropping on these bullish divergences, like don't get me wrong, right? But you're really starting to have a bottoming process where you're having these kinds of bullish divergences really to kind of decelerate this big giant downtrend over here. So there is a potential where if Ethereum does better from now on against Bitcoin, there's a potential that altcoin season could be upon us. And if you just look at the majority of the altcoins, like I'm going to go through many of them. I'm going to kind of tell you what I think just real quick. I'm going to go through like all of them in detail. But the majority of altcoins are already in bull trend, and there is a potential. Again, these market caps are not big. A lot of times you just need a little bit of inflow of liquidity to kind of pump them. Same thing with Ethereum. Like after the tokenomics has changed, after the recent merge, after you start to have burning of tokens, after we changed from proof of stake to not change of proof of work to proof of stake, there really is a lot of reduction in tokens that are available. Ethereum is actually deflationary. So it doesn't really take a whole lot of liquidity to really try to tap into that, especially if altcoin season starts. You're going to need a lot of Ethereum to burn and you're going to end up having a potential supply shock, right? So there's a lot of things that are kind of building up to it that could potentially change the game of this parabolic downtrend. Now, when I'm talking about altcoins, like I personally don't like to chase, right? So there have been a few altcoins that over the last year or so that's just been all over the internet, all over X, all over Twitter, and I just don't like to chase them. And they could go a lot higher, right? Like I'm just not going to chase things like PayPay. Like that's not something that I like to do because it just went way up. You know, it's forming a very, very nice bull flag. It could potentially go a lot higher. But how do I know this is not like already forming wave one, wave two, three, four, and five, and next thing you know, you're just gonna end up being exit liquidity, right? I don't know that, right? Don't let me stop you from making money, right? But I feel that whenever if this thing keeps going up, you're gonna end up building a lot of bearish divergences. That you know, I just don't like to be exit liquidity. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Are you gonna be end up being like exit liquidity if you enter like something that's been pumping like this so hard so fast? Like you could be, but again, I can't deny that right now it's got a very very nice bull flag over here. You know, so but I just don't like to chase. That's just my personal preference. Are you going to enter something like Boink, where you know it's been kind of just going up like crazy? You know, same thing, right? I just don't like to chase. This thing has been going up on bearish divergence on RSI. I just don't like to chase. Does it mean that you shouldn't chase? No, like you can do whatever you want. Forming two bull flags over here looks like there might be some bullish continuation going up. I have a hard time imagining that Boink's not going to participate in altcoin season if it does come, right? But I just don't like to chase, and I might be missing a lot of opportunities here. So, for example, Boink's already $1.7 billion market cap, and like Pepe is already like 3 point something, I think. Yeah, 3.6 billion market cap, right? So I just don't like to chase things that already kind of ran up real fast. But everybody has their own personal preference, right? Let's look at Bitcoin. Like again, these are 2 week charts. So the way I'm going to analyze these real quick is going to do a 2 week Ichimoku cloud, and I'm going to just basically kind of separate them into different categories. Those that are above the cloud, way above the cloud, and just kind of back testing these like Tenkan lines right here, they're doing very well, right? Bitcoin is an example that's just outperforming everything else. It's way above the cloud, and it's just back testing the Tenkan over here. Found support, so we're bounced, right? Very very nice, almost like a you know hammer bottom type candle, but you know again it could always go down further, but there's no guarantee. But so far this is one of the nicer ones, right? There are a few altcoins that look like this that are actually outperforming everything else. One example is the FET token, you know, Fetch AI, and this token has been extremely hot. It's doing exactly that. It's riding an AI narrative because it got the name AI in it. And right now it's just forming a very, very nice bull flag. It's probably going to end up having a lot of bullish continuation. But again, it depends on whether or not you want to chase something like this, right? The other one that's been doing pretty well is Injective. I mean, sure, it wasn't doing so hot over the last 2 months or so because it went all the way back down here. But basically what like Fetch token did is basically just, you know, pass this all-time high over here and just kind of back testing it a little bit. Injective doing the same thing, you know, went to 1.618 Fibonacci level, got rejected, and back testing down to this previous all-time high here. Is looking pretty bullish, but you know, it doesn't mean that it's going to keep going up. Because at some point, a lot of people that bought down here and made a lot of money, they might end up rotating up whenever things get, you know, too far about to other things that might be a little bit underperforming, right? So there are always these early cycle riser that I just don't know. But you can also chase strength. There are different strategies. If you look at this one right here, Render token, RNDR, also looks very similar too, right? Like there are these coins that just hit 1.618 and backtesting in previous all-time high. Yeah, there are all these really excellent coins that are looking very, very bullish if you're a momentum chaser. I'm just not one of those chasers, right? So what I would do, I generally like to look at things that are, you know, maybe a little bit underperforming Bitcoin, but they're still looking very, very bullish. For example, Ethereum. There's a potential Ethereum could catch up later on in the cycle and be an outperformer based on a lot of things that that I just kind of talked about. Tokenomics, altcoin season requiring a lot of Ethereum, potential supply shock, things like that, right? All of this is just punches through the cloud and just backtext and cloud backtext the tries over here. Found a little, very nice little trees or bottom thing kind of here almost, right? And it's looking at like a pretty good setup. Punch through the cloud, back to the cloud generally means continuation, right? If you're able to find support over here. Another one that looks the exact same as Ethereum is Solana. Punch through the cloud, backtest the cloud so far, right? And you got a bunch of other stuff that are a little bit, more underperforming, but they're also looking pretty good because they punch through into the cloud and they're just kind of consolidating, backtesting some of the horizontal levels and backtesting the condition that it needs to backtest. For example, like, Doge, it broke above these, Adam and Eve type double bottom pattern. It's just basically broke back above and it's basically backtesting it. It's a pretty bullish formation, although it hasn't punched through the Ichimoku clock quite just yet, right? But there's a lot of energy that's being built up that could get expanded whenever it starts pumping. It's going to do that. Shiba Inu, very similar. The full cloud's not going to form until 52 weeks, but you can see that punch into the cloud high volume. It's just kind of forming a nice move flag inside the cloud. It's a pretty decent setup. And you also got a bunch of like older coins like Cardano. Cardano, what it's doing right now is just punching inside the cloud and just backtesting the bottom of the cloud, right? This is not a bad thing. Link, punch inside the cloud, backtesting some of the stuff down here, like the 2-week Kijun right down here. It looks like it's finding support, maybe finding a little bit of like a tweezer kind of bottom over there. You got Cody, COTI, punch inside the cloud, backtesting the bottom of the cloud, looking like it's finding some support down here, potentially for some continuation. One of my favorite coins, Jasmy, punches inside the cloud over here, consolidating for a very nice bull flag, back tested some of this stuff down here. Kijun and Tinkin, do I think it's going to test the bottom of the cloud? Probably not, but I mean, it always can, but it did not end up doing that, right? So when you have something like this, if it ends up holding, it could end up punching through the other side of the cloud and go up. So another one that's looking pretty bullish is Near, punch inside the cloud, back test the bottom of the cloud almost perfectly, mind you, back test the bottom of the cloud almost perfectly. Graph, GRT token, same thing, punch inside, testing down. And then XBAR, same thing, right? Punch inside the cloud, testing down. Another one that I just charted on X, Avalanche, AVAX, same thing, punch inside the cloud, back testing some of the stuff underneath. Okay. You also got a lot of these like really small cap, like this is like a microcap one. The market cap is only less than like $30 million. It's nothing. This is available on Coinbase. So generally, like I like to also find these kind of microcap, not really too microcap. It's still like $30 million, but they are considered to be microcap as far as I'm concerned. And they are listed on Coinbase. So in general, I don't find them to be entirely too scammy. So I do have like a very, very tiny position of something like Soku, right? Punch inside the cloud, right? AMP, punch inside the cloud, back testing the bottom of the cloud, right? And then you have Optimism, OP, same thing, right? The cloud hasn't really fully formed yet, actually, but if you can imagine the cloud is forming, it would have been punched inside already, right? We actually have a candle over here and over here that's already inside this cloud over here that's starting to form. You have Live Peer, LPT, same thing, punch inside the cloud, back test the bottom of the cloud, holding, right? You also have something, not this is another microcap that I hold, very, very small position of BOVA, $66.5 million market cap, punch inside the cloud, back testing. Imagine if the cloud was there, right? And then you're starting to talk about some of the underperformers. This one is an underperformer that I do hold, Cortesi, punch inside the cloud. I was hoping they would back test the cloud and hold the cloud, but it didn't. It just kind of went through and punched through, right? But it is forming a little bit of nice trees over here. Maybe it will get back inside the cloud. We'll see, right? But I do hold this. Another one I do hold is also Underperformance, NKN, right? Had a little bit of a bearish engulfing, has some continuation here, but formed a nice tweezer. So it's a new 2-week session, so we'll see what happens. Another underperformer is Matic, trying to punch inside the cloud. This was a big winner from last cycle, by the way, right? But this winner, so far this cycle has been not so much of a winner. You're talking about trying to punch inside the cloud and failed, and now it's just kind of hanging out here somewhere, right? Forming a little bit of tweezer, but it's not that bullish. Another one that was talked a lot on the last cycle, EGLD. I do have a small position on this, but so far it's been trying to punch inside the cloud, it's not able to, just kind of hang outside, right? Underperformer. RNV, I do have a very small position on this, underperformer. This is a microcap that I was just basically just throwing in some money and see how it does. $24 million market cap, available on Coinbase. Not yet inside the cloud, underperformer. And there are also a few coins that last cycle have been pretty hot, but this cycle has just been, unfortunately, like very much of a underperformer as well, which I pull up. that haven't really that haven't really like got inside the cloud. Like this is Engine Coin. This is one of the coin that was very hot in terms of gaming, NFTs, things like that. It's just it's formed a nice Adam and Eve bottom over here, but it just hasn't really been able to get it inside the cloud, unfortunately, right? Another one that also have very similar look, Adam and Eve type pattern, but unable to really punch through the cloud. Sandbox, SAND. Another one, Decentraland, Mana, underperforming. Another underperformer, Carve token, Carve DAO token, ticker symbol CRV. Still pretty far away from that, right? So if you have to ask me what I would go for, I'm probably I don't like to chase. You can chase. I don't like to chase, right? Because I don't never know when the liquidity would end flowing out from these to the other ones. But these are looking very very bullish. I probably do something like similar to Eve or Solana or Doge. Like if they're inside the cloud, backtesting the cloud, I'll probably feel comfortable adding to it. I do have a small position in Cortese. I do have a small position in NKN. I do have a position in Matic. I'm just gonna let them be. I do have a position on Elrod or Multiverse X. I do have a small position on INV, but I'm probably just gonna leave them be, and I'll probably just add slowly with some of the other ones that are trying to find support inside the cloud. They're looking pretty decent, right? So there are a bunch of them that are available. There's no right strategy, but that's just one thought and one strategies that I might be following. You can do your own thing. I just want to share my thoughts. Anyway, I'm not going to chart all of them, but I've shown enough for you to feel a little bit dizzy now. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.